too expensive. It's too expensive to leave versus what you would save and the regulations that you wouldn't have to go through and all the bullshit with all the permits and all the. What California does is overregulate everything. They get as much government involved as possible. They suck as much tax money out of you as possible. And then they still leave the place a mess. They still have homeless people everywhere. It's still a disaster. It's still a woke show of virtue signaling at every level of the government. Still. Like no course correction at all. They're going further and further into la la land. And you're like, Jesus Christ, you guys.
The California storm may have passed, but the outrage at the top hasn't faded. Leading the charge are Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson, both determined to hold Governor Gavin Newsom accountable for what they see as blatant failure. In a recent episode of Rogan's podcast, the two unleashed their frustrations, making it clear they weren't pulling any punches. If chasing political power is the only thing on your agenda, then this message is directed right at you. And before we continue, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay with us.
State is just so poorly managed. It's so frustrating and confusing. And then he gets on TV and pretends like everything's great. Mm-hmm. And California's the best. We have the best state. We have the most amazing economy. And like, you're out of your mind, dude. You've ruined this state. Like, personally ruined it.
Rogan began by taking direct aim at California's governor, accusing him of squandering his time in office. California, he argued, should be a magnet for innovators and dreamers from all over the country. Instead, people are packing up and leaving. Rogan pointed out that he himself left the state back in 2020, frustrated with what he called a culture of cancellation, where a single comment can completely destroy someone's career. But that was only the beginning. Rogan went on to claim that what was once a thriving economy filled with opportunity has been wrecked by Newsom's obsession with political theater, reckless decision-making, and weak leadership. He painted a grim picture: rising crime, businesses fleeing, crushing taxes, and an ever-growing homelessness crisis. According to Rogan, Newsom has become the embodiment of everything wrong with modern progressive politics, where ideology is placed above the real needs of ordinary people. And Rogan didn't stop there. He reminded listeners of the governor's handling of the pandemic, a time when small businesses across the state were devastated. Instead of supporting them, Rogan argued, Newsom's administration piled on with blunders that made survival even harder.
No one who is alive today had ever experienced a true pandemic. And I'm hoping that now that this is over, people are going to, recognize that some serious errors were made and not repeat those. That's the best you can get out of it.
So what do you tell those people?
Vote Republican.
For Joe Rogan, Gavin Newsom's mishandling of the pandemic was the breaking point, and it even pushed him away from the Democratic Party. Why? Because, as Rogan explained, the party piled mistake after mistake onto an already fragile situation. Endless lockdowns didn't solve the problem. Instead, they worsened the mental health crisis, dragged out the pandemic, and crushed small businesses. Children suffered as well, with schools shuttered for months, despite minimal transmission risks. According to Rogan, the harshest impact fell on kids from disadvantaged backgrounds who lost out on education they desperately needed. And the heavy mask mandates, Rogan dismissed them as political theater, not science. He didn't hold back. Rogan blasted the left for silencing criticism, brushing aside evidence, and treating dissent as if it were a crime. He argued that California once had incredible opportunities, but that Newsom had squandered them. In his view, businesses were driven out, lives were turned upside down, and basic freedom slipped away. To Rogan, the pandemic wasn't just proof of leadership gone wrong. It was evidence of a broader decline in progressive governance. More power, less common sense. And he made it clear he wasn't going to let the issue fade away. Even as California faced devastating wildfires, Rogan renewed his attacks, intensifying the pressure on Newsom to answer for what he called a record of failure.
This guy's like standing in front of all this stuff, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's talking about land use.
The development plan.
Watch this. Play this.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor of down in Hawaii, who had some ideas about some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
with a big smile on his face. Look at the little wiggle he does with his shoulders. Speculator, watch this. Talking to Josh. Look at this. Look at this little wiggle. It's excited about the possibilities of speculators coming in. And he's saying we're move forward. We're going to move forward on that. These people lost their homes.
It's no surprise that Joe Rogan is urging Californians to consider voting Republican, because to him, true leadership isn't about staged photos or polished speeches. It's about stepping up when the moment demands it. Rogan recalls when California faced turmoil under Arnold Schwarzenegger, who confronted the crisis directly. No spin, no excuses, just a willingness to take responsibility and attempt real solutions. In stark contrast, Rogan argues, Gavin Newsom treated California's struggles like a political chess match. While residents endured strict lockdowns and watched their livelihoods collapse, Newsom was spotted dining maskless at upscale restaurants, all while reportedly eyeing a future presidential run. For Rogan, this wasn't leadership. It was self-interest wrapped in optics. Instead of facing challenges with grit and determination, Newsom seemed more concerned with headlines than with the everyday hardships of Californians. That, Rogan insists, is the core of his frustration. It's not about party lines or red versus blue squabbles. It's about competence and character. Real leaders, he believes, must show integrity, courage, and a sense of duty when everything is on the line. Californians don't need another polished politician chasing the spotlight. They need someone who genuinely cares about the people they serve.
Gavin Newsom talks about California. He's like, I'm very big on California, very bullish on California. California has all this industry. Hey, they're all thinking about moving.
Thank God.
The only reason why they don't move is because it's too difficult to move. If it was like every business could instantly pull up roots and replace everything and have everything running in a week at the other place, they'd all be gone.
Joe Rogan didn't hesitate. He accused Gavin Newsom of turning California into a graveyard for small businesses. According to Rogan, the governor's style of leadership hasn't just failed entrepreneurs, it has actively worked against them. He pointed first to Assembly Bill 5, which reclassified freelancers and gig workers as employees. What sounded like protection on paper, Rogan argued, became a bureaucratic nightmare in practice, sending labor costs soaring and creating endless legal hurdles for small companies. Then came the $20 minimum wage. While marketed as a win for workers, Rogan insisted it triggered restaurant closures, mass layoffs, bankruptcies, and an explosion of unemployment. And the problems didn't end there. Rogan pointed to widespread fraud in state unemployment programs, fraud he blamed on Newsom's oversight that left businesses stuck with payroll tax hikes they never signed up for. In his eyes, it was another blow to hardworking owners who were already on the brink. Rogan cut straight to the point. Instead of helping business owners survive and thrive, Newsom buried them under useless gestures, flawed policies, and suffocating red tape. The California dream, he said, had been transformed into a warning for the rest of the nation. And, as Rogan made clear, he was nowhere near finished with his critique.
Too expensive to leave versus what you would save, and the regulations that you wouldn't have to go through, and all the with all the permits and all the. What California does is overregulate everything. They get as much government involved as possible. They suck as much tax money out of you as possible, and then they still leave the place a mess. They still have homeless people everywhere. It's still a fucking disaster. It's still a woke shit show of virtue signaling at every level of the government. Still. Like, no course correction at all. They're going further and further into la-la land. And you're like, Jesus Christ, you guys.
Joe, Rogan has reached his limit with Gavin Newsom's administration. And honestly, is he wrong to feel that way? On paper, with its endless rules, ambitious programs, and sweeping regulations, California should be leading the nation in quality of life. Yet reality tells a very different story. Despite being one of the richest states in America, Californians are grappling with problems that outpace those in many other parts of the country. Homelessness has exploded, turning entire city blocks in Los Angeles and San Francisco into sprawling tent communities. Crime continues to climb in major cities, while businesses are packing up and relocating to states like Florida and Texas, places with lower costs, friendlier climates for enterprise, and, ironically, fewer headaches. Meanwhile, the skyrocketing cost of living is squeezing the middle class, leaving families struggling just to get by. So the question remains, after years of bold promises and progressive policies, what's really been achieved? Critics like Rogan argue that Sacramento is overflowing with inflated egos and hollow rhetoric, while the state drifts further away from the shining vision of the California dream. And Rogan isn't standing alone in his outrage. Actor Mel Gibson has stepped forward as well, joining the growing chorus, demanding accountability and even calling for Newsom's resignation. Together, their voices highlight what many see as a breaking point for California's future.
Karen Bass have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear they're unable to respond effectively and responsibly during calamity. Whether it's sheer incompetence or outright malevolence, the reality is stark. California's in a state of turmoil, and I ask my fellow Angelenos, why are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass still in office?
Mel Gibson didn't hesitate for a second. He went straight to the core of the matter. Gavin Newsom needs to be removed from office. And this wasn't just Hollywood-style grandstanding. Gibson's words carried sincerity, urgency, and frustration. He meant every word. The breaking point, according to Gibson, came during the ICE protest that spiraled into chaos. What began as demonstrations quickly escalated into riots. Towns were vandalized, businesses looted, and once peaceful rallies collapsed into violence. Yet through it all, Newsom remained paralyzed, unwilling to act. Instead of deploying adequate security to protect people and property, he chose to appease political allies and stand with the protesters, even as law and order crumbled. For Gibson, this wasn't simply poor leadership, it was outright negligence. Californians weren't demanding a heavy-handed crackdown. They weren't asking for political theater. They just wanted the basics: peace, safety, and a governor who would defend them in their hour of need. But in Gibson's view, Newsom failed to clear even that lowest bar of responsibility. Newsom couldn't even manage the essentials, Gibson scolded. Instead, the governor seemed more interested in chasing national political ambitions, touring the country, and preparing for the next stage of his career than fixing the disaster at home. California's problems were multiplying, yet its leader was distracted, too busy exploring new political territory while his own state fell deeper into crisis. In Gibson's eyes, the people of California were left abandoned. They were calling for leadership, but what they received was silence. And that silence, that refusal to act when it mattered most, is what turned Gibson's frustration into a fiery call for accountability.
Get your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
As if one arrest will magically undo the chaos Gavin Newsom helped create during the ICE protests. It's absurd. This is not leadership. It's a performance. In a desperate attempt to appear like a tough employer, Newsom is staging yet another political stunt. But when the cameras are off, when the photo ops fade, what's left is a governor more concerned with appearances than actual outcomes. Newsom's handling of those protests was nothing short of disastrous. His failure wasn't about choosing restraint, it was about refusing to lead. Storefronts were looted, towns were scarred, and what began as peaceful rallies quickly turned into riots. Instead of stepping up, instead of ensuring enough security to protect both protesters and the public, Newsom chose to ignore the problem and side with the noise. By the time outrage hit the streets and the media demanded answers, he resorted to his favorite trick, damage control. He posed for the cameras, retold the narrative, and acted like he had been the strong one all along. But that was the height of hypocrisy. Californians weren't asking for a crackdown. They wanted safety, peace, and a governor who would stand with them rather than hide behind political games. If he truly cared, he could have worked alongside the federal government to create a fair, legal, and humane framework to ease immigration tensions. He even had the chance to push for major legislation that would have secured borders while offering immigrants a sustainable future. But Newsom lacked the courage. He chose optics over responsibility. That's why voices like Mel Gibson and Joe Rogan won't let him off the hook. And even actor Jon Voight, never one to shy away, lashed out with brutal criticism, calling out Newsom's cowardice in words that cut deeper than any stage press conference ever could.
You're a fool blaming Trump. What are you doing for this destruction of these animals destroying Los Angeles? Are you there, talking calmly with them, you fool? They would burn you down like they're burning the cars and the American flag with no regard for humanity. This is not about Trump. This is about protecting the people from these animals and criminals trying to destroy us. And our police force, are they supposed to stand there, let rocks hit them and kill them? Who's going to save them? You? You're a disgrace. You're nothing but a lying dog for the hopes of becoming the president one day.
With a record like this, it almost seems laughable to imagine Gavin Newsom as the Democratic Party's frontrunner for 2028. California, once a shining symbol of opportunity, wealth, and innovation, has crumbled under his leadership. A state overflowing with resources and talent has become a cautionary tale of rising homelessness, economic instability, and violence. If he cannot manage one state, his own backyard, how could anyone possibly trust him to run the entire nation? Newsom thrives on appearances, not outcomes. The headlines make him look bold, decisive, even visionary. But when the flashbulbs fade, the reality is far less flattering. He fumbled the ICE protests, resorting to last-minute damage control while towns burned and public trust collapsed. He talks tough about reform and development, but schools continue to struggle, businesses disappear, and hardworking Californians shoulder the cost of his failures. It's the same pattern over and over again. Speeches first, results never. True leadership isn't about rehearsed sound bites or perfectly staged press conferences. It's about tangible results. And Newsom has shown time and again that he cannot deliver. His so-called progress often breeds more unrest, and his policies end up harming the very people he claims to represent. The hypocrisy is glaring. He could have worked with the federal government to create real, humane, and lasting solutions on immigration. He could have crafted legislation to secure borders while offering fair opportunities for the future. Instead, he chose the photo op route, more comfortable in front of cameras than in the trenches of governance. So, when whispers arise about Newsom's presidential ambitions, it should set off alarm bells. If he spreads this brand of leadership nationwide, America will pay the price. Even critics like Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson agree if he can't lead California, he has no right to lead the country.